Across America, it's the weekend. This weekend, your host is Jeff Katz from Rush Radio in Boston.
Wow, that guy is good. So I've heard. Hey, it is Jeff Katz, and it is the weekend. Thrilled to be here. So much to deal with. First on the agenda, of course, as always, figured out what's for dinner for the kids. Meatloaf is always number one, always accepting the tremendous meatloaf recipes. However, I came across a story that I feel compelled to share with you because I think like most moms and dads, I fall into the latter category, happy to say, most of us are obsessed one way or another with feeding our kids, right? I mean, it is the number one thing. Children get up, they look at you longingly, lovingly, mostly longingly. They say, okay, feed me. And it's not just feed me. You know, if I turn to my wife and say, feed me, she is perfectly willing, perfectly capable of throwing something at me and saying, feed yourself. She can turn to me and say, feed me. And I will say, absolutely. And I will whip up another incredible meatloaf. But the kids are something else. And there's a certain science to being able to feed children. There is a certain art, a certain skill that most of us as moms and dads, I hope, pray, have figured out. Now, what happens when somebody comes along and says, listen, we don't want you to be bothered with that. This is too much trouble for you. We want to be able to step in and feed your children for you. Now, on the first part, you think, well, no, wait a minute. Hold on a second. If you're going to feed my kids, I'm thinking, okay, it may or may not be a good thing, but we just got done with Halloween. We just went door to door, stranger saying, please give us food. And we did. And we took it. And we said, okay. But I came across this story out of Washington, D.C. I'm going to play it for you. I want you to take a listen to this because it's not just about the idea that the kids here are going to get something to eat. There's nobody opposed to the idea of kids getting something to eat. But when you hear how this plays out and you hear who's stepping in to feed these kids, I'm here to tell you you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem, I would dare say, the same way that I had a problem. Again, this is from Washington, D.C., but it's happening all over the country. Take a listen to this.
How does thinly sliced rib roast on a soft whole grain roll with a side of fresh fruit sound? Well, that's a typical dinner now being served at almost 200 D.C. schools, and kids are eating it up.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir!
You sure?
Yes, sir!
Before the Neville Thomas Step team can work on its moves after school, or these kids hit the blacktop for some serious hula hooping, they all sit down to an early dinner together in the school cafeteria.
We have your protein with the salmon salad. It's
Wait. Let me jump in for a second. And you've got to figure out what this video looks like. We've got to post it. If you go to our page on Facebook called The Weekend, you'll be able to watch the video of this. Now, the guy who's speaking is the executive chef for the Washington, D.C. public schools. Think back to what we remember. I don't know about you. I remember the cafeteria ladies. There were no executive chefs there. There were rather unattractive women with hairnets and giant tins of things and a big can opener going, there's the slop for you. And you go, what is it? We don't know was the answer, but we're sure it's good for you. So the Washington, D.C. schools have an executive chef, and he's like a real chef. He's like an executive chef who you would find in a real, honest-to-goodness, upstanding, upscale restaurant. But did you just hear what he's presenting to these kids? Poached salmon salad. I have 3 children. I have a 9-year-old, I have a 7-year-old, and I have a 6-year-old. I am simply trying to imagine the reaction I would receive if, in front of those children, I placed a big heaping scoop of poached salmon salad. Why do I have a feeling it wouldn't be a positive reaction? I don't know. There's just a sneaking suspicion I have. All right, so that's what they have prepared for dinner for them. Take a listen. There's more.
Poached, so there's not a lot of fat used in the cooking method. We have a corn and pepper relish.
Chef Edward.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, Madam Reporter. A corn and pepper relish. Now, I know that goes perfectly well with the poached salmon salad. How many of us with 6-year-olds, with 9-year-olds, with the 10-year-olds in the house would go, you know what you're having tonight? Not only are you having the poached salmon salad, but we have a beautiful accompaniment for you. Really? What is it? Corn and pepper relish. Huh? Where are the tater tots? How about Franks and beans? And what do you serve with a poached salmon salad and a corn and pepper relish? I'm waiting for the school district to hire a sommelier who comes along and, oh, we have a lovely chocolate milk tonight. It's a wonderful accompaniment. But wait, there's more.
Lord Witowski is in charge of whipping up healthy dinners for D.C. school kids as part of a new program to provide 3 healthy meals a day at school.
Our program is from scratch cooking using locally sourced produce and meat products when we can, and just really incorporating low-fat cooking.
It's a far cry from the muffin or bagel and juice kids used to get in the after-school program, which was often the last food some would eat until the next day at school.
It's good and it's healthy.
D.C. joins 13 states, which are all serving 3 meals a day at school.
All right, now that's one of those other details. That's the more serious part. Did you hear that? 13 states already are serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner to kids in schools. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner in 13 different states. Are you at the point where you're thinking, okay, Jeff, we got it? No, I have news for you. There's more.
To the tune of $5.7 million. Officials here have embraced the program because they realize healthy, well-fed kids learn better.
Or we're doing it at 90.
Can I also point one other thing out? Healthy, well-fed kids are the responsibility of their parents. It is the responsibility of mom and dad to feed these children, not the schools.
99 schools, 10,000 students a day, and we think that it's making a huge difference.
All right, hang on a second. 10,000 kids a day are getting breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the schools. 10,000 kids every day. You know what that says to me? It says to me there are 20,000 deadbeat, irresponsible parents out there going, hey, why should I be bothered feeding my kid? I'll tell you why. Because it's your responsibility. Because it's your child. It is your son. It is your daughter. It's not my responsibility. It's not your neighbor's responsibility. It's your responsibility. Here we are on the weekend. How many of us, by the way, are going to be headed to some place to buy groceries to feed the kids this coming week? Our responsibility. Now, you want to hear the payoff? Stay close. There's more of it.
With our children.
And while some kids still reached for the chips instead of the salmon salad, Emmanuel Gross had a good reason to give this new meal a try before heading off to sign language class.
So I can be on task.
And that's definitely something to cheer about. And another big benefit of the after-school dinner, more kids are enrolling in after-school programs where they can get some academic help as well. So the dinners are really serving 3 purposes, Brian. They're fighting hunger, obesity, and offering help with classwork, too.
Well, Audrey, I think everybody would agree that kids deserve 3 square meals a day. The harder questions become things like, can D.C. schools even afford something like this?
Well, you know, that's the beauty of this program. It's actually a federally funded program, and it plays right into First Lady Michelle Obama's fight against childhood obesity. D.C. schools are reimbursed on a per-meal basis, so very little cost is involved, but a huge payoff for D.C. school kids.
All right. I told you that was the payoff. Oh, it's a federal program, gang. It's free. Did you get that? In other words, you and I, who are going to be going into our local grocery store, and it doesn't matter where you are, you and I this weekend will be going into the grocery store with coupons in hand, with little Super Saver cards, doing our best to make sure that our kids are fed, figuring out 3 different ways that you can turn meatloaf into something attractive, trying to figure out what you can get to pack for the lunches, and they're telling you in this story, and this is just D.C., you've got 10,000 kids. That means 20,000 irresponsible parents out there who have abdicated their responsibility to the rest of us, and then they're celebrating the fact that it's free. All right, I want to get some moms and dads into this. 1-800-501-7080. 1-800-501-7080. Moms and dads especially, you're hearing the way this is set up. And I'll tell you what, you can take it in a million different directions. I think it's a matter of personal responsibility. I think it's a matter that those of us who are responsible parents sit down and say, are you kidding me? I don't want my kid spending 18 hours a day in school. I don't want my kid being raised by the school. I don't want them being fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the school. This is a very, very dangerous situation. And believe me when I tell you, it is not about feeding kids. It's about controlling kids. It's about allowing people, not to take responsibility for their own actions. That's the dangerous part here. You and I make decisions. Listen, best part of the child making process is the actual making of the child. It's the tough part after the little buggers arrive. That's when you run into the difficulty. And part of that is being a grown-up, being responsible and saying, I'm going to feed my kid. I'm not going to look to someone else. All right, we'll talk about it. 1-800-501-7080. 1-800-501-7080. I remind you, check us out, the brand new page on Facebook, The Weekend. You just heard that story that I played for you from Washington, D.C. You have to look at it as well. Their television reports up there. The images are just incredible. When you watch the faces, especially the executive chef, he is anything but an old-time lunchroom lady with the hairnet, because he's got poached salmon salad for 6-year-olds. Anybody else trying to figure out how much of the poached salmon salad actually winds up in the child as opposed to on the floor? 1-800-501-7080. I'm Jeff Katz. It's The Weekend.